Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, my dear ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this last live stream of Chaitanya Leela for now. After this one, it will, have a little break, and then let's see how we continue. So, tomorrow is Gaura Purnima, at least here in Sri Mayapur. And I was thinking, we heard already about the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the story about the first Gaura Purnima festival is actually a very wonderful meditative story and a very good start into this whole Gaura Purnima festival. So let's delve right into the story of the first Gaura Purnima festival. I will drink a little bit more today because I have a little cough and I hope to reduce the cough by drinking. Hare Krishna, everybody. Yeah, I can see your comments. Already so many here. Hare Krishna, Bhavini and Chris and Heidi. Okay, thank you so much. So, my story today is based on the book of Sitala Mataji. Sitala Dasi wrote a book about Narottama Dasa Thakura. I linked it in the description. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. It's the glorious life of Srila Narottama Dasa Thakura, I think is the title. It's all about his life. And the story of the first Gaura Purnima festival is also in this book. And on her narration, it's the base for my story today. I really recommend reading this book because she really glorified Narottama Dasa Thakura, and with glorifying him, she also was bringing, at least to me, and I think to everyone who will read this book, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu closer. It's such a beautiful book. It's a great piece of literature, actually. Usually when we read about books about our Vaishnava saints, there are translations from Bengali verses, and it's all a little bit crooked because they're not really formed into a nice story format. It's just translations verse by verse. But Sitala Dasi really took the time and created a beautiful, beautiful story out of these historic facts, and I can really recommend it. It's the link for the book is in the description. So let's start with who was Narottama Dasa Thakura, because he's very important for this first festival, for this first Gaura Purnima festival. It will be organized by him. So who was he? Narottama Dasa Thakura was born shortly after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left. So he already heard from his childhood about Lord Chaitanya's Leelas, and then he really wanted to have Lord Chaitanya's association, and he left his home secretly to seek the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then he had to learn that he came too late. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already left the earth, as well as his close companions, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. So, really, really sad story in one point, because he missed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like this inch. Like I missed Srila Prabhupada. I could have some association with his disciples of Srila Prabhupada, and Narottama Dasa Thakura had also association, for example, with Jiva Goswami, one of the close associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he missed actually Lord Chaitanya. And so after he learned, he missed all the associates. They had already left and were no longer on this earth. He traveled to all the pastime places. And after he traveled to all the pastime places, then he went back to his hometown, Kituri, and there he stayed. And there our story starts. So when Narottam came back home to Kituri, his parents, of course, were overjoyed. They were so sad when the son had left, and now they were overjoyed and were saying, please, please don't leave us again. Stay here. And Narottam told him, yes, yes, I just wanted to visit the pastime places of the Lord, and now that is done, this is done, and I stay here and I just do my bhajan. But not long after Narottama Dasa arrived home, he received a letter from his Guru Maharaj Lokanath Goswami. And in this letter, his Guru emphasized that it is very important to engage the people in deity worship. And to do so, he encouraged Narottam to establish a temple in Kituri. When Narottam was reading this instruction, he liked the idea, actually. During his pilgrimage, he had seen many devotees worshipping the deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so the desire in him grew that, yes, this is a very good idea. And of course, I would like to follow the instruction of my Guru Maharaj and establish a temple. But then an idea arose in him. He had the vision that, or he was thinking, how wonderful would it be when I invite all Mahaprabhu's devotees for this temple opening? And how wonderful would it be when this temple opening would be on the date of Lord Chaitanya's birth anniversary. Until now, his birth anniversary, Lord Chaitanya's birth anniversary, was not celebrated yet. Even he had concluded his pastimes on the earth many years ago. And so he had this idea, how wonderful would it be if all the devotees come together and we make a big festival on the birth anniversary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to inaugurate this new temple and new deity. And when he thought about it, his desire got stronger and stronger and stronger. And he thought, yes, this is a wonderful idea. He was thinking about all the associates and devotees he had met during his traveling. And actually, many of them were barely alive because they felt such an intense separation from the Lord. And just to bring them all together in a huge Maha Sankirtan Yagya, just as in the times of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like so many of them had told Narottama Dasa when they told him about their remembrance of the pastimes, this would be just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So the thoughts went on in Narottama. And the next day, there was one more important thing. He also wanted to establish the Chaitanya Charitamrita. You have to know the 6 Goswamis were the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they were writing books during his lifetime. But the generation after the 6 Goswamis, like Narottama Dasa or Srinivas Acharya, we will hear from him also, they then took it to his soul and hard work to copy these books and distribute these books all over Bengal and Orissa and Vrindavan. So Narottama had also the desire to establish Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita as the authorized biography of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he thought it's a wonderful opportunity to do so when everybody comes together in this temple opening. So the next day, Narottama talked to the king of Kituri, King Santosh. King Santosh was a disciple of Narottama Dasa, and when he heard about this idea, he was very enthusiastic about it. He declared, we should hold a great festival here like no one had ever seen. I will cover all the expenses and the preparations for the buildings and for the guest accommodation and the preparations for building the new temple. It will start at once. So he was overjoyed to hear about this idea, and he was very lucky to contribute to this idea. So soon a date was set, and Narottama was very happy. But he did not want to do it alone. He wanted to have help from his dear friend Srinivas Acharya. So he wrote a letter to Srinivas Acharya and soon received an answer that actually Srinivas Acharya was very close by to Kituri, and Srinivas invited Narottama to come over, and then they could discuss everything. So Narottama went to Srinivas. There was a great greeting. They were overjoyed to see each other again. They had relished a wonderful time in Vrindavan some time ago. They were exchanging how the book distribution was going on. And then Narottama told Srinivas about his idea. But Srinivas was a little doubtful. Narottama has no expertise in organizing a festival this great. It is the first time he's organizing such a great festival, and it's very difficult to organize such a festival. So he was doubtful, but he said, okay, I can see your enthusiasm. Of course, I will help you. But how will we get all Mahaprabhu's associates to come here? Each of them is in a state of deep, deep separation from the Lord, and none of them is actually traveling much. Then they live all over the country, and even if we manage to bring them here or to Kituri, how will we accommodate them? Who should cook for all of these people? But Narottama assured Srinivas, don't worry. I have many men. They can bring all the invitations to the Vaishnavas. And I'm sure when the Vaishnavas hear about this festival, they will gladly come. And with the help of King Santosh, the temple will be completed, and he will also establish guest houses and all the facilities the guests will need. So Srinivas said, okay, you're very, very enthusiastic. Let's begin, make some preparations. Let's start with a name of lists who we should all invite. So they made a name of list, a list of names. On top of the list was, of course, Janavamata, the wife of Nityananda Prabhu. There were Sri Advaita Acharya's sons. There were Srivas Pandit's brother, Lord Chaitanya, and many, many more. Then both of them started to write invitations. But not just normal invitations like, please come to my temple opening this and this date. They wrote exquisite Sanskrit poetry. Beautiful, beautiful poetry they used to invite all the Vaishnavas. And they made it also very clear that not only the receiver of this letter is invited, also all associates and all devotees of Mahaprabhu are invited. So if the receiver knows some other devotees who would like to come, sure, they are welcome to this festival, and they all should come to Kituri to have this wonderful celebration. So after Srinivas and Narottama wrote all the invitations, they had a little kirtan and then went to bed for the night. But Srinivas couldn't sleep very well. He thought about the arrangements of the festival. How should they accomplish such a big task? How should they do it? It's so many things to do. This to do, that to do, this to do, that to do. Who should do all of that? Suddenly, while he was thinking and while it was rattling on in his mind with all his doubts, suddenly, my dear ladies and gentlemen, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in a vision to Srinivas. And Mahaprabhu pacified his heart. He said, don't worry. This festival is my desire. I want this festival. Don't worry. And he smiled. Lord Chaitanya smiled very broadly and then disappeared. Of course, after this vision, Srinivas Acharya was fully convinced this festival should become alive. It is the Lord's desire. So all the invitations were sent out. Not only the Vaishnavas were invited, also kings and landowners and poets and scholars and authors and other performers and all kinds of people were invited to this festival, and the preparations started. Soon, the preparations were in full swing. There were, for example, new constructed houses for accommodating the guests. Narottama was always checking and overseeing the construction. He was very eager that everything would be very proper. Everything had been done very properly because he wanted to offer the visiting devotees the best facilities possible. And he didn't want anyone to feel inconvenient in any way. That's why he very carefully checked how the construction was going on. And he was actually very, very grateful to King Santosh, who had spared no expenses, and with all his charity, all this was possible. Also, he was, of course, very grateful to Srinivas Acharya for his expertise in his managing skills. So he saw how the guest facilities were built. He saw how the temple in the center of the town took shape. All the workers were busy buzzing around and eager to finish in time. There was a kirtan hall. This was also almost finished. There were gardens created, beautiful, beautiful gardens around the temple complex. Also, there were bathing ponds dug. All the guests had to bathe somewhere. They had to wash themselves somewhere. So ponds were dug that the guests would be very, very well received. Then Narottama came to the hut where the deities were made. The sculpturing of the deities took place. So he came to this hut and observed, studied the forms of the deities like he did every day. And there were 5 sets of Radha Krishna deities, and they were exquisite. Narottama was really happy with these Radha Krishna deities, but he was not satisfied with the deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No matter how much he tried to explain the sculpture about the features and the form and the face of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, somehow the form of the face of Mahaprabhu did not reflect his beauty at all. And Narottama was very disheartened. This was the only thing in all the preparations that wasn't turning out well. So he was very disheartened. Went back home, thought what could be done. And like so many times in our Vaishnava story, Narottama had a dream. Narottama had a dream, and in this dream appeared Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, "My dear Narottama, you are trying to make this deity for me, but it will never appear correctly because I don't want to manifest in that form. I decided that I will be in the form of a golden deity, and this deity is already in Vipradasa's storeroom." The Lord smiled and disappeared. Narottama was puzzled. He had never heard of a person like Vipradas. So the next morning, he tried to find out who is this Vipradas? How can I reach him? Where is his storeroom? He was eager to get this deity, of course. So he found out Vipradas is a grain seller. And the devotees were leading, or the persons of Ketuvi were leading Narottam to Vipradas. And Vipradas was also very surprised. Why is the sadhu coming to my home? And he asked, of course, how he could help Narottam. And Narottam said, "My dear Vipradas, please allow me to enter your rice storeroom." Vipradas was very puzzled. "Dear sadhu, don't trouble yourself. I can just bring you whatever you want. I can bring you all kinds of grains. Just stay seated and I bring you whatever you want." "No, no, 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 no," said Narottam. "I don't want grains. I just want to enter your rice storeroom." Then Vipradas said, "I am so sorry, my dear sadhu, but this is not possible. I also would like to enter my rice storeroom, but it is infested by snakes. I tried many times to rescue my precious rice, but all the time I come near the storeroom, they hiss and they hiss very loudly and no one can enter. It's very, very dangerous. You cannot go there." Narottam said, "Don't worry. Don't worry, the snakes will not bother me. Just let me go." Vipradas said, "No, my dear Narottam, you cannot go. It's very dangerous." Narottam said, "Yes, I will go. You will be surprised what I bring out." And with this, he just went to the storeroom. Narottam could clearly detect which one it was because it was a little abundant, and he went straight into the rice storeroom. The onlookers were waiting outside. They were anticipating that any moment Narottam would scream for help, and they were thinking, okay, what will we do then when he gets bitten by all the snakes? But nothing happened. And suddenly they saw that snakes were coming out of the storeroom. First one by one, and then snakes came out in groups. And the onlookers were thinking, how did he do that? This rice storeroom is locked since many, many months. So they were wondering, and then they could see through the shape of the door, they could see how Narottam deeply took his hands and dug into the rice. And he pulled something out. They saw how he pulled something out. And what did he pull out? He pulled out a large golden deity form. And it was the perfect image of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just as the Lord himself had promised. So Narottam was overjoyed. He came out of the storeroom. Everybody was surrounding him and marveled at this beautiful, beautiful deity. And with an exciting heart, Narottam took this deity and brought it to the hut where all the other deities for the festival were stored. So the preparations were almost done. Everything went well. And there was one preparation Narottam took care for himself. It was his personal service, his personal gift for Lord Chaitanya to compose some songs. And a lot of these songs we actually have still today and singing still today. So Narottam's whole inspiration he got during his pilgrimage, when he visited all the pastime places, all this inspiration poured now into beautiful Bengali verses. And he described Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and then went on to glorify also Radha and Krishna. And actually he made this in a new style. He took the Vrindavan style of kirtan and he took the Bengali style of kirtan and merged them expertly together. After he composed everything, he went to the musicians and taught them these songs so they could learn them. And this was his personal offering for the Lord, for this festival opening. So, finally, the day when the guests arriving had come. When this day came, when all when all guests should arrive in Kituri, Narottama, Srinivas, and all Kituri residents, they gathered at a riverside and waited for the guests. And they didn't have to wait long. Soon they saw the river overflowing with boats. Boats of every size. Small boats, big boats, and the guests were streaming into Kituri. Devotees from all parts of Bengal and Orissa were streaming into Kituri. And Narottama and Srivas and many disciples, they were waiting to greet all of them respectfully. Especially, of course, they were waiting for Janavamata. And they were looking, where's her boat? Where's her boat? Is she coming or not? They were hoping she's coming, but they didn't know. And finally, they saw the boat of Janavamata. And when they saw the boat of Janavamata, suddenly they saw also all the other boats from the senior Vaishnavas they had invited for the festival. And they were all coming, and they were so happy. Of course, when you make a festival, the worst case can happen and nobody is coming, but everybody was now coming. When Janavamata arrived, it seemed like everyone they invited also arrived. Finally, the guests came to shore. And the Kituri, Narottama, Srinivas, and the Kituri villagers, they greeted them very nicely. Some garlanded the guests, some took some sandalwood on the forehead, some playfully took some water from the river and washed and worshipped their feet. Some were helping to bring all the gifts the guests had brought for the deities ashore. And so the guests were exquisitely greeted. Of course, there was a lot of hugging, and there was a lot of paying obeisances and respect to each other. So when Janavamata finally came ashore, Narottama also paid his respects and then went with folded hands to Janavamataji and said, now Kituri is very blessed. With your presence, this festival will be a big success. We were worried you are not coming, but now you are here and the festival will be a success. And Janavamata said, how could I miss this opportunity? Mahaprabhu wants this festival. He desires that we all come together and glorify him. And with this, all the guests entered Kituri. And when they entered Kituri, they were amazed. It was so beautiful arranged. The paths were lined with banana flowers. In front of each house, there was a rice design made of rice flour. Mango leaf garlands were hanging, and it was so beautiful. The guests also went along some groups of ladies who were stringing garlands for the festival. And they were chatting and singing. And of course, when these ladies saw the guests arriving, they paid their obeisances and then were chatting and singing further on and making their garlands. When the guests saw the accommodations, they were very, very happy. The guests saw the kitchens, the guests saw the temple. They saw the temple, and of course also the kitchen, which was already in full swing to feed all these thousands of guests. Janavamata was really, really grateful for all the arrangements Narottama had made. And Narottama, being a true Vaishnava, didn't just say, yeah, I did a great job here, you're right. No. He was a true Vaishnava, and he was thanking actually King Santosh for his help, for his generosity. And he was also mentioning, of course, Srinivas Acharya and his expert managerial skills, managing skills. So the guests went into their rooms, and it is said that all guest rooms were full. All guest rooms in Kituri and also the neighboring villages, everything was full. So many devotees came to attend this festival. So the Adivas took place on that day, and with this, the festival had started. The next morning was the Deity installation. Deity installation. Sorry. Enthusiastic crowds streamed into the temple. When they entered the temple, it was beautiful, of course. The entire courtyard was adorned with banana trees, with coconuts, with flower garlands. Strung mango leaves were hanging around. There were clay pitchers with water in it. And in the middle of the courtyard, atop a large flower-bedecked pedestal, were standing 6 deities. These deities were hidden beneath some clothes because they were not yet installed. In one corner, was a yagyashala, ready that the yagya started. And when Narottama saw that everybody was there and everybody was ready, he escorted Janava Mataji to his seat. Then he escorted all the senior guests to his seat. And then Srinivas addressed all the Vaishnavas and with very grateful words that because of that everyone came, they made it to an historic event. They made it an extraordinary event that they today celebrated the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with this huge, great festival. Srinivas Acharya asked for the blessings of the senior Vaishnavas, and with their blessings, the Abhishek started. Abhishek is a bathing ceremony. So Srinivas Acharya pulled the clothes from the deities, and finally the guests were seeing the deities, and they grasped and wonder of this beauty, and then the bathing of the deities started. The kirtan also started. The conch shells were blown, the gongs were clanged, the bells were rung, and the women made their woo sound. And it was a wonderful Abhishek, and everyone was in awe from this beautiful, beautiful deities. The Brahmanas were chanting their hymns, kirtan, beautiful. If you're visiting Gaura Purnima festival, you will witness also the Abhishek, you will witness the kirtan, you will witness the dongs and the bells and the kirtans, and maybe also the woo sound of the ladies. Depends on which part of the world you are. So it was beautiful. After the ceremony ended, the curtains were closed. The deities were dressed behind the curtains in new, beautiful clothes. Then the curtains opened again, and everyone was in awe now seeing the lords dressed in these beautiful, beautiful garments. The crowd was excited. And now, my dear ladies and gentlemen, is the beginning of something extraordinary. Now, after the installation was completed, after the installation, that is said, God entered the deity form. He is now present in this deity. So after the installation was completed, Srivas turned to Narottama and signed him to start the kirtan. And Narottama did not just sit down and started to play. Now he took his time. He invited all the musicians. He personally garlanded all the musicians. He worshipped the Mridangas. Then he turned to the guests and, with a heart flooded with bliss, he expressed his gratitude that all of the Vaishnavas had come. He was so overwhelmed, he even paid his full dandavats before all of them. He, of course, offered his obeisances to the senior devotees, and then he finally turned to the deities and asked for their blessings. Please, O Gauranga, please, O Nitai, please give me your blessings. The courtyard was silent. All eyes were on Narottama Dasa Thakur and how he would now start to sing. Finally, he took the cowrtils in his hands, sat very erect, closed his eyes. His face became into a meditative state. Then he nodded to the musicians, and the musicians started. And with a gentle smile, Narottama began to sing. Verse after verse, he glorified Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The crowd was captivated. This was a new divine sound, a new extraordinary type of kirtan, unlike anything they had ever heard before. Sorry. Many began to cry when they heard Narottama singing. And Narottama gradually increased the tempo. The devotees clapped and swayed in the beat. Narottama became more and more absorbed in the remembrance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and now tears of happiness were flowing from his eyes, and one song after another was pouring out of his heart, and he made it happen that the pastimes of the Lord came alive into the listener's heart. So wonderful is it. He was singing, and the guests, all the devotees, they could experience the pastimes of the Lord in his heart. No one remained unmoved. By now, many devotees were dancing, and they were forgetting everything. So Narottama continued, and suddenly there was an extraordinary smell. There was an extraordinary smell. It was very sweet, and it filled the air. One could clearly smell this. Was not the usual fragrance of flower or incense. It was something unearthly, something intoxicating. The Narottama realized this smell was coming from the deities. And when he realized the smell was coming from the deities, he felt great He felt great separation from the Lord. And he changed the melody to match the mood of the separation. And thus with this tune of separation, the chanters were lead into ever deeper states of spiritual emotions, and the air around the deities became thick with the mood of separation. So everyone was longing for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Everyone was longing, and Lord Narottama Dasa Thakur poured out his heart, verse after verse, longing for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then suddenly, like a flash of lightning, Lord Chaitanya and his associates appeared. They appeared just right next to the musicians, beside the musicians. Narottama was stunned. Was it really true? Was it a vision? Was it a dream? He reached out his hand to touch Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he touched Lord Chaitanya's hand. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't a vision. He was here. Everyone was here. All his associates. And Not only that the Lord was here, everyone could see him. If qualified or not qualified, they could see him all. And shivers of ecstasy ran through Narottam's body. His hair stood on end, tears shot in his eyes. And not only he felt these intense emotions, Janavamata, who was the wife of Nityananda, when she saw her husband, deep, wild sobs burst out of her, seeing her beloved husband. Gaurachandra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, lifted his long golden arms and gracefully began to dance. The kirtan exploded. The kartals clashed, the mridangas thundered, the devotees clapped loudly. They were chanting, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And Chaitanya showered all his mercy by his merciful glance over them. It was just wonderful. He whirled and spun and danced with all his associates. Then Nityananda, he pulled Narottam up and began to dance with him. It is described, the earth trembled beneath their feet, and Lord Nityananda's dhoti was swirling from side to side, and Nityananda spun in the courtyard. Sri Advaita Acharya danced through the crowds, roaring like a lion. Gadadhar Pandit was dancing joyfully beside Srinivasa Acharya, and Narottam's heart was just burning with ecstasy. Everyone was here. Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda, Shrivas, Gadadhar, even Rupa Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath, everyone was here, and it was as if the time had turned back. And once again, Mahaprabhu was enjoying his ecstatic kirtans like when he was present in Navadvip Dham. So, transcendental madness was in this courtyard. People cried, people trembled, they held their hands, they danced. Some just stood motionless in awe, just watching Lord Chaitanya dancing. Is it real? Is it real? They couldn't believe, absolutely disbelieve. Some felt unconscious. How unfortunate is this? The Lord appears and you lose your consciousness. So, looking around, Narottam saw this scene unfold. And his body trembled in ecstasy and he couldn't sing anymore. He was unable to suppress his spiritual emotions and he just fell to the ground and couldn't sing anymore. But the kirtan was going on. The devotees were singing and were thundering on and dove in deeper and deeper states of this pure nectar ocean of the holy name. The chanters lost all sense of time or place or status or bodily identification. They considered themselves no longer as higher or lower or larger or smaller or younger or older. Everything was washed away by the purifying waves of the kirtan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had united his family, his devotees, once again in this beautiful, beautiful kirtan. Then Sri Chaitanya turned around and he embraced Srinivasa Acharya. And then he embraced Narottam. And Narottam did not want that these moments end. He did not want that this kirtan end, and he did not want that everything of this ends, that time should just stop here. He did not want this moment to end, but as quickly as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, as quickly he and his associates were gone. Vanished. And then, my dear ladies and gentlemen, you can imagine the sadness of the devotees. They were crying, they were mourning. Some devotees fainted, some fell to their knees and sobbing, some stood frozen, just watching at the same place where Lord Chaitanya just had stood moments before, empty. Narottam lay just unconscious on the floor, barely breathing. Finally, he opened his eyes, came back to his consciousness, and Srinivas approached him. Narottam, you have received the greatest mercy of Lord Gauranga, and you have given us all this gift. You have given the greatest gift to all of us. We are so grateful to you, Narottam. Thank you so much. Narottam barely heard what Srinivas was saying to him. He just saw Jahnavi Mata approaching, and he tried to get up and folded his hands. And Jahnavi Mata also said, my dear Narottam, we are forever indebted to you for arranging this Sankirtan festival. Because of your intense desire, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his entourage personally appeared before us because of this festival, because of your pure chanting. So she was deeply, deeply full of gratitude to Narottam. And Narottam just simply bowed his head and muttered, Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. Then Jahnavi Mata suggested to start the holy festival and to continue the festivities of this first Gaura Purnima festival. And so they started the holy festival. They offered a lot of preparations for the Lord. They had cooked. The kirtans were going on, the discourses were going on, and the devotees had their exchanges about what had happened during this day. There were a lot of bhajans and dramas and kirtan, and the festival actually went on for 3 days. After the installation ceremony the next day, Jahnavi Mata also cooked a lovely, delicious feast for all of them. And she didn't eat before everyone else had eaten, even Narottam or Srinivas. She put her heart into this feast. And then slowly, after 3 days, everyone had to leave. The festivities were over. There was again a lot of hugging. The devotees were a little sad. They had to part now again. Some even stayed longer. They couldn't just leave. But slowly, everyone had to go. And with everyone leaving, actually the news of this extraordinary Kheturi festival spread far and wide. And so Narottama Dasa Thakur became famous. The former prince of Kheturi had grown up and had now become a famous kirtaniya, and his glory spread all over India, and now also over the whole world. Yeah, and this, my dear ladies and gentlemen, was the story of the first Gaura Purnima festival arranged by Narottama Dasa Thakur. Please take it to your heart to read this book of Sitala Mataji. It's a wonderful piece of literature. I put the link in the description. And I wish you all a beautiful Gaura Purnima festival wherever you are. and hope that, yeah, one day we will all see the Lord. But tomorrow we celebrate our Gaura Purnima festival. So thank you very much for joining. And Hare Krishna.